I wanna hear your thoughts, I wanna hear your sound. And mama always told me to shout and speak my mind out loud. Come on and talk when you got the time. Freedom, want you on the line. We wanna hear from you. You got it going. Let your voice shine. Platform yours is not just mine. We wanna hear from you. You got it going. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. You're gonna shine. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. You're gonna shine.
Hey y'all, what's up? It's your boy Douglas, or you could call me Freedom. Welcome back to my channel. Before we start this video, make sure that you guys like this video, comment below this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel because you need me. I am so glad to be back. This is the season premiere of my podcast, season 3, episode 1. I missed you guys. I had a really long summer. Actually, this summer went by really quickly. I just mean as far as like seeing you guys and just doing the whole podcast thing, it's really been a while, but of course we're back and better than ever. I'm giving you so much more this season. Hopefully you could tell. I just want to make sure that you guys are, you know, fed. You guys have absolutely no idea how happy I am to be back. Without further ado, I think we could get started. Let's go into our first segment. All right, you guys, so this is Freedom's Q&A session. For those of you who do not know what this segment is, this is a segment where I answer questions from fans and just like, I basically would do like Instagram polls or like Facebook polls, and people would ask me questions and stuff like that. We don't have a whole lot here. As I say always, make sure that you guys forgive my background, the cars outside, and my brother. Okay, the first question here says, do you have any artist role models? I feel like if you know me, you already know this answer. Of course, I have artist role models. I'm assuming that this question is pertaining to singing, but you guys know that I love Rihanna, Beyonce, and Nicki Minaj. They're not the only artists that I like, love, or support, or are fans of, but they are my top 3. And they do have a really big push into me doing music, along with Michael Jackson and my mother, because my mother is a singer too. That's actually where I get my singing from. So yes, those are my artist role models, and I do not think that without hearing their music or just watching their documentaries and just seeing the work ethic that they put into literally everything they do, I would even be here. Their inspiration is so heavy, and like even in my future music, my first album, you guys are really going to see how much they've inspired me. If you guys haven't seen already, also shout out to the love that y'all been giving Quarantine Studio, because that, oh my god, shout out to the love y'all been giving the Quarantine Studio remix music video. I really appreciate it. That was my first music video, and oh, it's so special. The love is so special, and continue to run it up. The second question is, how are you feeling? So this is more like general. To be honest, happy now. Like in the moment, I do feel happy. I'm in a really great mood just because today was a really productive day. So usually when I have productive days, I kind of give myself a little pat on the back just because, you know, I've been doing a lot of work for myself, you know, and for you guys. So I would say now that I'm like in the process of just like doing the podcast and everything, today was a really productive and like really great day. I mean, I haven't ate anything. I'm a little hungry. I could definitely go for some food. My sister didn't even tell me that her and my cousin were going to IHOP today. Like, I'm so hungry, you have no clue, but I'm gonna make something after I'm done with this. I could hold it out for a little longer. My bad, y'all. I had a little test mic in my phone, so it made the audio quality a little grainy. Hopefully, y'all be able to hear me. I'm gonna fix it when I'm, you know, editing or whatever. Third question was, how are you really feeling the year after your mom's passing? I was actually telling my therapist this, and I told my friends this earlier today, but I still miss my mom a lot. It's been a year since her passing. It doesn't even feel like a year. I can't believe it's been a year. I haven't really, I guess, like moved to like any real stage yet in my grief. I'm still in a place of shock. So being that I'm still in a place of shock, I'm still trying to comprehend and trying to process her physical loss. And it's been a lot too. It's really been a lot too. I'm not a person that likes to stay sad for long. Every day when I get up in the morning, I just tell myself, what can I do to make myself happy? I go to do things like creating content for you guys or music, you know? Obviously, if there are days when I'm sad, you know, I do make sure to like, you know, vent, tell my friends, obviously like tell my therapist, stuff like that. But, overall, you know, I think that my mom kind of trained me to like, she'll always give me a platform to talk to her, or like will do something that'll keep me occupied or keep me happy. So I never knew what it was really like ever in my life to dwell in sadness, because my mom kept me from doing so. And, you know, and I think it's starting to like, I think that's also starting to play out even with the grief. Like, I don't really know how to grieve, you know? And like I said, this is just such a big loss for me that I think it's still taking me time to, you know, grasp it. Subconsciously, I do feel like I'm more or less going through it with my dreams. She's always on my mind. So, to like, clearly, to just answer the question straightforward, I'm still in shock. I'm still in shock, and I'm still trying to process everything. Now we're able to move into our next segment. I cannot wait for you guys to see my guests. Oh, I'm so excited. Hi, you guys. We are now in our second segment, freedom of speech. For those of you guys who don't know what this segment is, this is a segment where me and my guest talk just about, to be honest, anything. I have an awesome special guest with me today. Justin, you can introduce yourself, give your pronouns, and just, you know, tell the people who you are. I mean, I'm just glad that you're on here.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not doing nothing. No. My name is Justiin Davis. He, him. I'm an actor. You might recognize some of my work from shows like The Boys, Boardwalk Empire, and soon to be, depending on when this comes out, The Bold and the Beautiful.
That's what I love about you. Like, you're just so down to earth. You're just such an awesome person. For y'all, actually, I'm about to say, for y'all who don't know, none of y'all know this, but he's actually my mentor in this whole acting thing. We met through Hillary. Shout out to Hillary. And she introduced me to you. And Justin has really been, he's been there for me for some of my biggest auditions, some of the movies that you guys have seen in the last couple of years. I almost got, and it was really just due to the support of not only my mom, not only Hillary, but you. You would literally take time out of your day to take the train and travel to me, and you sat with me through some of my biggest auditions. The one I specifically remember was my Central Park 5 audition, because I did audition for that show. And I was called back by Oprah, but because of the characters and just like the roles that I had to play, I guess I didn't like, you know, fit the, I guess I was too, I don't know what happened. I don't know if I was like too tall for the role.
Well, I always learned, you know, I mean, casting always goes so many different ways, but especially this year with everything that's sort of been going on, what I've been really trying to hold on to the idea of is what's really meant for us. It will always be sure to catch and will never pass us by, and we'll be in the room for, and trusting the process, and that it always ends up pushing us in a greater direction than we even realized, you know. And also, I've had a few ups and downs, and I can't remember what song it was, but there's a song that goes something about the ups and downs, but then there being real big dips. There's been ups and downs and there's been dips, and I've learned to even be thankful for the dips, because, you know, there's always something to learn even in that part of the journey. So even with what I've gotten, like in the dips there and the sometimes disappointments, because some of them do feel like disappointments, you know, it ends up having to be the setup for the next big venture. And that's what I've been able to use those moments for myself, because there have been a lot of them when there have been like good moments.
There's been a lot.
Yeah. For every great moment, there's about 10 to 15 crazy, sad, bad, all the other ones. So just knowing that you're a part of the process and you're doing exactly what you need to do to get where you need to go.
Well, that's the thing with acting, you know, it's like playing whack-a-mole. I tell people that all the time, you know, it's like you're hitting and you're trying to see which pops out. And that's for every actor, whether you're famous or just getting there, or, like it's for every actor, but it could be very intimidating. I'm not going to lie, because I've lost, but I've also gotten roles and went on projects to do one thing, but because they liked me so much, I was able to do another, stuff like that. And like I said before, like that Central Park 5 audition, I remember being so nervous for it. And I think I had an anxiety attack like right then and there, but like my dad was there too. But like you coming and just like, again, you only knew me for such a short amount of time. And just for like you to make yourself present in that moment really meant a lot for me. And like even giving me tips, even when I was still getting put in acting classes and stuff. Like I remember you coming to them and like that your overall support and just your tips, like it really meant a lot. And I do really consider you my mentor in this whole like acting thing. So I am super duper happy that you really joined this, and just that you were able to like just be in my life, you know what I mean? Like it's so
thank you. I'm happy I was able to as well, and just be able to be here. So yeah, sorry to cut you off though, but I'm happy to.
First of all, I have so many questions, but my first question I think would be, what even inspired you to act in like the first place?
Oh, well, I mean, I've loved this ever since I was a kid, and my grandmother adopted me when I was very young, and it was always just a bit of an escape for me. I loved movies like Sister Act 2 growing up, Hocus Pocus, things like that. And I went to a Catholic school and found my way into the drama department. And I think I was the Sheep in Charlotte's Web, and then Charlie one year in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I got bit by the bug back in like fifth or sixth grade. I think I might have been I can't, is that maybe between 5 and 12, 5 years old and 12 years old. I really loved it when I was very young at that age, like 5. Then I got really shy and had to like stop doing stuff. And then back when I was like 12, I really got back into it again. That's about 7th grade. But it was something I loved ever since then. And then my family were always very supportive of it. I always said, if I can make a person laugh at the end of the day and forget what they've gone through, the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs of their day, and they can come and see a show or sit back and watch something that I'm in, and I can sort of take them on a journey out of their, current, out of the moment that they're going through or facing, then I've done my job. If you're having a bad day and you can watch something that I'm doing and it makes you laugh, then I'm doing exactly what I want to do in life and what I treasure doing. And for me, it's never been about it's never been that it's been a job or working. I've loved playing pretend and playing and creating characters and the craft.
Of course, because when it's a passion, it's not work.
Yeah, exactly. When you're doing what you love, it's not work. Even when you are on set for 16 hours, it's not work. And all the energy ends up being the adrenaline that pushes you through to the next day. So it's just been something that I've always loved doing. And I loved all that growing up. And I loved Nickelodeon. I was a Disney Channel kid. And I always said, I want to be like one of them. Like, I want to do these shows. Oh my gosh, this is so much fun. I want to do this sort of stuff too.
It's literally the same thing with me. Like when I was 8 years old, I remember, first of all, amongst all the other shows that I loved, I remember watching Victorious and just loving what it was about. And I remember running into the room because I didn't know what it was actually called, acting. I didn't know the word, but I told my mom, I was like, I want to do this. And I think I said this in season 1 as well, but she researched an agency, and I went there, did an interview, did modeling, photo shoots and stuff like that. And I had a little mohawk. I was like 9. And then afterwards, I was put in off-Broadway, and then I started doing background work in movies and TV shows. And then from there on out, it's just, and I met Hillary, again, shout out to Hillary, during my, I think, 3rd off-Broadway show. So Hillary's been with me for more than a decade now, or if not almost a decade. And like you said, it's a passion. Always told that I had a really big personality and that I was really outspoken, like my mom. And, acting was always for me, even the whole YouTube thing. Like I started posting and doing YouTube in 2020, but Yeah, I've been kind of at this computer stuff for years, like way before 2020. I was always, everybody always said I was made for the camera. Like I was just always a camera person. So I definitely can relate to your story. That's what I love about you when it comes to acting, like your tips and just like your experiences. It's authentic, it's authentic. You're not, it's who you are. And that's what it is. Like the acting is just who we are. There is no if, ands, or buts. I know people have seen you on TV at some point in their life. Like you have gotten so much. First of all, your roles and like the stuff that even Hillary told me that you were a part of. Like, weren't you on? You played a victim on Chicago PD, or was it Chicago Fire?
Chicago Med, yeah.
Chicago Med. Okay, yes. My sister watches that show Down, and I was like, I know somebody that's on here. And I was like, but can you just tell me a little bit just about that whole experience? Because like I've done background work on SVU, but I've never actually got to play a main role yet.
It's definitely coming, so watch out for it, because I always say we're one email away from our entire life changing, and that's the truth. But Chicago Med, they're a really great team, and they're very focused on being truthful to not just the storyline, but what the person's going through. So the effects team is very, very hands on. I think it's one of the best effects teams in all of the business, to be honest, because what we've done, or what I was able to do on that episode particular, was I didn't know necessarily how they created or recreated, burn survivors, and I was able to play a burn survivor and somebody that had, mixed together some BHO, and then there was like a huge house explosion, and one of my friends ended up passing in the episode, and I'm burned from like my waist up to my neck and arms and everything. And so it was such an interesting process. I'd never been a part of a show that did anything like that before. I had an effects team like that at all. And we started out each day that I was on, because of course I was the burn survivor. We started out each day just with a 4-hour makeup job of me getting into like into the body modifications and the effects works. And that was probably one of the coolest jobs up until last couple of years. It definitely held down like the title, one of the coolest jobs that I've ever been a part of. I didn't mind the 4-hour like makeup process that it took to get into everything. I started out, I think they would pick me up at like 4 a.m, and then I was in until about 8, and then we would be in rehearsals and shooting for like sometimes 14 hours, especially when like I was really on, and that episode was more so about me. But they're an amazing team, and they like to have fun between the takes. It's a lot of serious stuff. It's a procedural medical drama, but that cast, whether they've switched out or not, they're a really great team. And I was able to get really close with Apatha Murkison, who, as you know, was on Law and Order for about 30 years and held down. Yes, she held down the title of like longest running Black female actress on television, period. So I was able to get really close with her. I met her when I was on Boardwalk Empire, and it was nice to come back and spend time there. And then be in Chicago was my first time in Chicago. And yeah, they were an awesome team, and I love that family. I love that family.
Anything that just has to do with like Dick Wolf and just like the production, it's always going to be 10 out of 10. Like I said, even doing background work on SVU, like the environment, the room, just down to the set people, like it's really high quality stuff. And I think that that's what gives a lot of his shows the coof to even like still run. Like it's really just unmatched talent. Shout out to a lot of the background people, just set designers and stuff like that, because it's a lot of work that they even do. And like you said, it's hours of it. And that's something else. My mom always told my friends, if you want to come and swing by sets, whatever, you could. I was just always worried about my friends doing that, because like acting really is all day. Like you're gonna be, there's times where we're at sets all day. Like there were days where like my whole day, it will be the next day. Like literally, we've been doing it for a very long time. So we're used to being on set for long, periods of time. But acting sets is really all day, but it's all day so you can get what you need out of doing the work. Boardwalk Empire, and just like how you said being one email away from your life changing. Get into that, please.
That was a funny one as well. So earlier that week, I went in. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I went in that week. It was a Monday that I auditioned for the show, and I think they had already had callbacks and saw people like a first round or whatnot. And somehow I got there, and the office was empty. Nobody else was there that day, and so I read. I left. I The next night, I was co-starring on The Good Wife, which was a show that was on CBS with Juliana Margulies a few years ago. And so I thought, wow, this is a really great, this is a really great week. You know, yesterday I auditioned for this show that my dad's known about, and I've seen like previews for it, but they were still very young. They were in their first season still. And I don't think the season had even ended yet. But I had read for it and I thought, wow, this would be really great, you know, and then maybe the casting director will see this tomorrow, or maybe somebody attached to the show will see my episode on The Good Wife and be like, oh my gosh, we love that kid and he's working on something else. Let's have him back again. So Tuesday sort of happened and The Good Wife stuff came out, and I'm happy because everything was in it, of course. And there's times where, you know, it was a co-star role. So I thought, oh gosh, I hope my stuff didn't get cut out, but luckily everything was still in. And so we got through the Tuesday, Wednesday came, Thursday came, and I thought, gosh, I didn't even get a call back for that show, Boardwalk Empire. Oh, they must think I'm just like a terrible actor. Friday came, and then I was like, wow, okay, nothing. Haven't heard anything. Let me just go to sleep. Or this is like Thursday night going into Friday. Friday early morning, I'm like, oh gosh, you know, I'm just gonna go to sleep and whatever. We're gonna sleep all day tomorrow. We're gonna turn our phone off. We're gonna completely forget about it. I don't want to hear anything from the world. I am upset.
Yeah.
That are meant for you, and they'll always come back around. This is on my shoulders as I'm going to sleep that night. I wake up the next morning. My phone, I'm surprised I didn't have an iPhone then, but if I had an iPhone then, my iPhone would have been hot. And we know what it is when the iPhone gets hot. Yes. And it's been on the charger or in the sun.
It'll like alert
too long. Like boiling, right? It needs to cool down before you can use the device.
It needs to cool down. Yeah.
So I woke up that morning, my phone would have been hot. I woke up to so many missed calls and emails and text messages and voicemails and basically smoke signals. They were like, Justin, where are you? You need to call us back. Boardwalk wants to book you now. And I'm like, wow, that happened without even a callback or anything.
A callback or anything. Wow. Really,
put myself out the ring for it. And, you know, yeah, that morning my team was like blasting, you know, they were blowing me up just to let me know that they were calling to send over an offer for the role. So that was the beginning of a very crazy process. But at the time, I was still in my undergrad in college. I think I was a sophomore or a junior in college. And I had landed the biggest role of my life at that point. You know, Boardwalk Empire, like I said, it was a baby, but it was a big baby. It was Martin Scorsese.
It's a very big show. Yes.
Boardwalk Empire was something that, especially playing Michael's son, is something that I'll hold near and dear to my heart always. Okay. I love that team too. I love that family, and I love stepping back in time and revisiting that. It's, you know, it's a sense of nostalgia, but it was such a great time in life, and I love them always.
Of course. First of all, that was beautiful. I wanted to say you had lagged out a little bit there. Before who passed?
Oh, my father. Yeah. So my father used to love the show, and it was before he passed that I auditioned and got onto it. He didn't actually get to see the episodes, but, you know, he was there to celebrate and enjoy that. You know, at the time it was like one of his favorite shows. Prohibition 1920s, the entire sort of like period piece drama. He loved that feel, that age, that time period, the gangsters, you know, the mafia, stuff like that. So he loved just the show, and he was happy to be able to celebrate me being on it. But before it aired, he did end up passing. Yeah. So my dad, but that was and that's what I was saying, that, you know, there were a lot of like similarities between him and Michael, him and Chalky White, that I thought was great. And, you know, to play, you know, Michael's son on the show, and then, you know, it was a great time, and that's something that I always hold near and dear to my heart.
actually just told you before we even started recording, I lost my mom last year, and I'm still in a place of shock with my grief. And I'm still trying to process it because it's such a big loss. And if you knew my mother, you know that she's literally the reason why I'm here. She literally took her time out of her day, her schedule, and everything that she was going through in her life to invest into me from a young kid. So she's literally the reason why I'm literally standing here, literally doing YouTube. Like she gave me the push to do everything.
Congratulations again. I know she's proud.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that I get to do this. I'm glad that I get to do this for not only myself, but for, others. You know what I mean? Like giving, inspiring others and giving and my god sister and I was just talking about it this morning, just that whole thing of like, I didn't know how big of an inspiration factor I had.
Mm.
Like there were so much of my friends and just people I know that was like, okay, like now that I see like you doing all of this stuff on YouTube, like it's really making me want to do like YouTube, like it's really making it. That's such a good feeling to get when you have people come up to you and they're like, okay, yeah, like I want to do this. Like I want to do this now because I see you really like at it and, having fun and having a great time.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad that I'm here because I feel like like you said, that's the whole purpose of our career. It's to serve as that place of inspiration. Speaking of your dad, I didn't know this. I didn't really know of like you other than outside of just like the acting stuff. So, if you don't mind, like, how was the grieving process when it came to your father and just like your whole, I would just say like life dynamic, like who did you look up to or like who played like parental figures in your life, like who really just like who do you consider, I don't know, like your family, your pushing factor, your support system?
Yeah, so it was a very interesting time. Like I said, I was raised by my grandmother. She ended up adopting me. So my maternal grandmother, she ended up adopting me. And then later on in life, after everything that happened with my father, my mom ended up coming back into into the picture. But my grandmother had me from 1 to 16, 17, up until, the day that she passed, which was an interesting time because my grandmother had passed just a few months before my father did. So it was a
Double whammy.
year. Yeah, it was a tough year. But I always found solace and like sanctuary and being able to act and being able to sort of like find an escape in it all. Like I said, when I was saying earlier that she'd adopted me, like it was an escape and, not necessarily having to, not being distracted, but I didn't think when I was a kid that I was missing anything. I didn't grow up with either of my parents, but I didn't feel like I was missing anything at all as a child. I was completely fulfilled. And so one of the things that I did to fulfill that space, that, all of that was find acting, find these characters, be able to, do these things. So even when that happened, I really focused more into work, and not that I became a workaholic, but it allowed me to have therapy and find an outlet in the things that I did, whether it be through journaling and breaking down human behavior and all of these things that, that go into acting and the psychological part of it all. And just being able to fall into a different world, I think it was the day that my grandmother passed. I had gone on another audition for an Apple commercial, and I ended up getting that one, and so I always thought that, she was a part of that too. And I had those angels sort of watching over all of those things. Yeah. So it was an interesting time. Like I said, I didn't grow up with my father. But of course, that grieving process was just like any other when you lose a parent.
Right.
Unfortunately, like it's sad because you almost grieve them in a few ways because you might not grow up with them, but they're finally in the picture. You're finally able to have a relationship with them.
And that relationship.
And yeah, you sort of like lose them again. So it was almost like a grief in a different way, because now you go, well, I'll be able to learn them over time, or we have time. We can sort of like learn each other. We can grow to learn each other. And then, life ends up happening. But I always said, those are the people who are watching over me, and life ends up having such a crazy sort of like roller coaster. And, that's, I think, sometimes the thing that makes not getting some of these jobs easier is knowing grief on so many different levels, knowing and understanding life on so many different levels, and having to pick up the pieces, having to, sort of be strong, having to wear the armor and be still, soft on the inside, but still strong and, tough and will and might. So it's a roller coaster of different things, but I've always found that this has been a huge outlet for me mentally and physically. Even in moments where it ends up being a mental and physical burden, the moments where, it's not, it's really nice to be able to lean into this and find that artistic relief in just the craft.
Yes. I think that that's the power of not only acting, but music. Like for me, I have both of those as interests. So I find solace in doing both. Like I tell my friends all the time, if I'm on set, like getting hair and makeup, it could literally be for a background role. I don't care. Just that feeling of like being on set and just like seeing people like attend to you. And just like, it's such a good feeling. Like I can't describe it, but you would really feel like, wow, like, okay, like I'm really like that. Like I'm really like that. Like I have, like I'm really fired. Like,
and y'all see me and y'all know I'm here, right?
Y'all know I'm here. And it's just like, I feel like I'm really in my element. And it's the same feeling I get when I'm in the studio, like recording a song, like it's places that I literally do not mind being forever, all day, every single day. So there is therapy with your art, and not even just for singing and acting, but art, like people who draw or, dance,
That's the other thing I do too. I got into drawing, and I've always loved drawing and sketching.
Really?
Yeah. And it ends up just being artistic releases and artistic therapy sessions. And I think that's one of the things that it's most important about what we do, is that it's not all just the show, and it's not all just the pizzazz and the fad. There's artistic therapy that happens. There's a release, there's connections, there's breakthroughs, there's all these different things that happen, just like you said, on the acting side, and especially on the music side. Music as a form of therapy is one of the most groundbreaking and realest things out there, and it's something. The arts has been, people joke and they kid, and they, MTV used to have a thing where, it was about the art saved me. And I think the art saved a lot of people. And it's one of the most pressing things. And one of the things that I hate to hear, that schools have taken some of the arts out. You want people and kids to figure out what they're going through, all of these different emotional, rebalances, especially during like hormonal changes and pubic changes.
During that period, come on, like teenagers are.
You need the arts, right? You need to be able to express yourself in a form that isn't conventional. Conventional forms of expression are what make people go crazy. It's when you allow them to step out of that they're able to figure out what they're trying to say, because they haven't been able to figure out the words for it. They can figure it out through artistic development. And it's one of the things that I've always been very, felt very strongly about, that, I hate to see schools lose that. You're taking away imagination, you're taking away healing, you're taking away understanding from kids at a very early age, where what we need as Americans, what we need as a world, is more understanding, more love, more peace, more all of it, more healing. That way we can fix what we've already damaged. We can't fix the damage with more damage. We can only fix it by doing the things that we've stunted even our children from. That's a very long way of answering that question, but yeah.
First of all, I just want to get through what you said, because you said so much important stuff pertaining to just that whole thing of just like how you felt like, you've been guided, and how you felt like you have that spiritual support now when you act, and how you feel like it's kind of like made the experience of acting better for you. It's literally the same for me when it comes to acting and music. With my mom's passing, last season, I felt like made itself, almost as if I wasn't recording, like I didn't do any of the work. It was almost as if like the drive was there and it took over. Like the the drive itself came out of me and it took the front wheel, metaphorically. But like, you know, season 2 was such a great season. And I know this season's going to be everything, especially with you opening it. The season made itself. It was almost as if I didn't put any work into it. And I tell people this all the time. That was my mom. Like, that was my mom. Like, you could tell when it's like that person guiding you, and whether it's protection, and not even just in music and just our art, but even in our personal lives. You know what I mean? Like, I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful that my family is still here and that my siblings and I are getting along, because, you know, we've always argued. And the last couple of weeks during the summer, I had to really sit back and realize how much, even though I might not be at the exact place I want to be in my life, things are still going great. And it's just that thing that it's just that saying that everything really happens for a reason. If it's meant for it's, and there's still so much questions I have, you know, why did you have to lose your grandmother and your dad? Why did I have to lose my mom? You know, it's so much questions that go unanswered, but then there are also questions that do get answered. I feel like as an actor and as a singer, anything you do, there's always room for improvement. And the more you do it, the more you go at it, the better you will get. What doesn't kill you really does make you stronger, as cliche as that sounds. And you come out of it not just like a better person, but more logical. And I think that's really what it is. Like, as you get older, as you experience these things, there's a bit of logic that comes with going about your life. And school, really, really important. I was privileged enough to go to an art school. You know, I went to LaGuardia, shout out to LaGuardia. And I was privileged enough to have my art. You know, I was privileged enough to have my art. I was able to kind of like find myself and grow as a singer there. And now I'm able to do that for college too, which is such a beautiful thing. But actually, all my schools I went to were art schools. So my elementary was an art school. My middle school was an art school. I was always a vocal major. If not doing vocal, I was doing acting. I was in a play, you know. But like like you said, every school doesn't have that. And I do feel like it's needed, because even if that's not something that you see yourself doing for long term, it still will help you in your life and in the moment. We gun so far for the future, but we miss living in a moment. Yeah. And that's something that I'm still learning how to do, is just like live in a moment and appreciate things for what it is. And like you said, when you're a teenager, I literally am coming out of my teens. So trust me, I understand, because I'm 20 now.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I had art school, or just some options. And I think that's really the key word, just options, things to do, things presented for me, other ways of living. Yeah. It's really, really important. And that is a must. School just needs to have that, you know, definitely more funding. And definitely when I get bigger, I definitely see myself advocating for it, donating for that. Like, it's necessary. Like, art is, like I said, it's very cliche. We're not the only people to say this, but like, it's necessary. My last question for you really was just like any tips that you give to upcoming actors. But before you answer that question, I did want to know about the whole Toyota thing. I saw you in it during the VMAs and I lost it. How was that commercial?
I had such a great time shooting that commercial too. It was actually, it's funny. I used to live in New York. Now I live in California. I left New York earlier this year, mostly because everything in New York was still self-tapes. And I said, if I can self-tape in New York and then still live in LA, and I know that everything's sort of like out here, they were starting to do in-persons again. People were like starting to move around. I said, I could live out here, still do my self-tapes, and then meet people in person, and then sort of make both cities, you know, take over both markets, or at least introduce my, you know, get my feet wet in both markets. So I was here when I actually shot the self-tape audition for that. And it was at an interesting time, because I hadn't been back to New York the entire year yet. And it was the 1 week that I was coming back into New York. So I ended up coming back in, and just like a day or two before, I found out that I booked the job. And it ended up shooting just 3 days in New York, and I was in for maybe 7 altogether. So fitting was one day, it shot one day, and then it shot one overnight, and that was a long overnight. So I always wondered how car commercials were done. All the green screen stuff, all the stuff like with the aerial dancers, with the fire, you know, the fire spitters and the, you know, the floor dancers, those were all done in studio on like green screen with, you know, screens and everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, those were done on the stage. But then all the stuff where we're like in the street and like moving around New York City, we're out overnight at like 3 a.m. in the morning in the meatpacking district, closing down streets. We closed down, I think, most of like Ninth or 10th Avenue, right in the meatpacking district, and we got those shots. But that was an awesome time. But it was definitely on a 48-hour loop that I was on, because then 24 hours after that, I was out in the UK, and I was there for the weekend. And then when I got into New York is when I also got the call about The Bold and the Beautiful. So then I ended up having to come straight back to LA right after. So within about a 3 or 4 day period, I was in New York, London, and LA, and just like going nuts. But shooting overnights for that was awesome. It was my first car commercial. And I'm just excited because I've always wanted to do car commercials. So even as
I can't wait for mine. Like,
uh,
what is it like? First of all, are you actually driving the car?
no, that wasn't me driving.
In general.
Oh, so yeah. So what they did was they hired the four of us, the main sort of like the first team for it. And then they had a stunt driver, which would switch out when it was time to like do all the maneuvers and like driving around
Okay.
and overnight. But yeah, you're actually driving. We weren't on a flatbed. We weren't being like pulled behind another vehicle. We were driving on the street, and I just actually uploaded it, and I'll probably do some more uploads and stuff. But we had these beautiful, what I've always loved about film was not just the acting side of it, but what went into filming all of it. We had these beautiful trucks. They looked like the beast, like Obama's limousine that he had when he was president. They looked like the beast and had this arm and this huge camera, and it would come swiveling and swerving in and out. And I'm like, this is why I do this. So all the pieces that go into it are like, it's magic watching it all be done. And I've always wondered how it was done. So to do that part of it too, I was like, finally, this is great. I can't wait for more car commercials. But it was an awesome way. So the 2024 Toyota Prius, if you guys happen to see it and you love it, definitely go out and get one, because they're a really nice car.
Yes. Seeing you in that commercial just made me so excited for when I get a car commercial, because oh my God. I remember auditioning for a car commercial, I think a couple of years ago, but there was actually something going on, I think, behind the scenes with actual production. That kind of like, I think, scrapped the commercial entirely, because it was like during COVID. So like there was a lot of stuff that was being scrapped.
Yeah.
I remember being so ready for it. And I remember telling my mom, like, oh my God, like if I get this, like they was like, I actually have it as an unlisted video on my YouTube. So like nobody could actually see it, but because they uploaded to YouTube, like that was like the audition department. I was like, well, luckily for them, I actually do YouTube.
Right.
I was able to, and that video is still up there, like still up there. And I actually did it wasn't really nothing big, but it was for a scholarship. I did like a fake little car mini commercial, but see, David wasn't expecting me to actually act and like.
Damn right.
Oh, because like it's beneficial when you actually are in that field.
Dude, yeah.
As we close out this segment, I did want to just say, like, do you have any tips because you've given me a lot. So like, I want to know, like, do you have any tips for like upcoming actors, especially just like nowadays? We will be moving into the strike the next segment, but just generally, like, what are your tips for upcoming actors, at least some?
Yeah. Just keep going, keep pressing. I think this is an industry that is not easy by any means, and it's always looking to weed out the ones who don't want to be a part, who just want to do it as a hobby. But it really takes it for you to love this as a passion, something that you'll love getting, tons of no's by and one yes, things that you won't be phased by, and you can move through, because at the end of the day, the bigger thing, the bigger takeaway, nothing worth having is easily achieved. The bigger takeaway is walking away and knowing that you've invested your time, energy, and your blood, sweat, and tears into something that you love, a craft that's respected and world renowned, and something like we were talking about, artistic release, a form of expression that you can release all of that energy from, whether this is what's causing that negative energy or whether this is what you do to get rid of that negative energy. Never give up. And just because it's not the biggest form of acting, there's no part of this that means that you're not still doing what you love. You can do what you love and completely be fulfilled by just doing that. You don't have to be on the big screen or the little screen to feel fulfilled in this career. There's so many different parts of it. So just keep going. And I guarantee you will get to exactly where you want to be as long as you keep your head in the game.
You are answering every single one of these questions so beautifully. It's making me want to cry, but also at the same time hug you. I'm like such a fan right now. This is just your etiquette. Just oh my God, you're eating this
Well, I've been through a lot in this thing and experienced a bit, and I know the successes and I know the setbacks, and I'm still in love with this thing. So I always go, if there's anybody who needs a reason why, a reason to be in love with again, come talk to me, because I guarantee I've got the reasons and I've got the understanding, and trust me, I get it where you are. I'm also a practical actor. I get why you're upset with your team. I get why you're upset with this time. I get why you're upset about the strike. I get how you've got nothing left. I understand every part of this business. I haven't been a series regular yet, but I understand people at every part of this business too. That's the thing. I understand when you're starting out. I understand your first big role. I understand that callback that you've been on hold for, and then all of a sudden it was going to change your life and you got released this afternoon. I understand all of those different things, and I've always been here just to try to help inspire and encourage, because I know what I've gone through, and I always wanted that same sort of encouragement and support system. And you need one when it comes down to this, because this is not an easy thing to get. But once you do get there, the taste of success, the taste of I have worked my entire life for this, that's the biggest payoff.
Keep going and keep experiencing. You know what I mean? You're gonna lose, hands down. You're also going to win. And it's something that could be applied to not just acting, but just anything that you're doing in your life. Everything really happens for a reason. Stay tuned. The Freedom Savage podcast will be right back.
But it ended up happening, and I ended up losing it. I'm over here missing you, hoping that you're listening. It was only that day that I learned to realize that life will hand you hardships, and that you gotta go through all the pain, and there's no getting around it. It hurt me, it broke me, traumatized me, consumed me. Had a shit on replay, you feel me? I thought I wanted to be yours, but our love had its run. It ran its course. I thought you...
Hey y'all, what's up? It's your boy Douglas, or you could call me Freedom. I am proud to announce that my official website is now up and running. Yes, you heard me here. My official website is up and running, freedomsavageentertainment.net. This website took forever, a lot of planning, a lot of creativity. Make sure you guys subscribe to my website for updates on anything that I'm doing, and you guys will still see changes made to it over time. All of the links to all of my stuff is on the website. It's gonna basically be my creative hub, and I can't wait to, show you guys how this empire that I have will develop over time. All right, make sure y'all head to the website because it's definitely giving what it's supposed to. Peace out. Turn on your mics. We're back with the Freedom Savage podcast. Okay, you guys, we are in our next segment. This is Freedom of Speech Part 2. This is just an extension of freedom of speech, but we are going to be focusing on one particular topic. As Justin and I have already mentioned earlier in this episode, there is a strike going on with our union. If you are an actor and you have done an on-screen project, you are part of a union called SAG, Screen Actors Guild. Our union is on strike currently. Justin, if you mind giving a brief overview of what the strike is for the people that don't know.
Yeah, the strike is this is the part 2 of a strike that's going on right now. There's a writer strike going on with the WGA as well. They've been striking for a few months prior to SAG striking, SAG-AFTRA striking, and they're fighting for less writer rooms, to be paid equally for work that they've compensated and done as writers and creators of the shows, and also AI protection. Actors, we're fighting for AI protection, residual protections. Sanity protections when it comes down to it. Say you've got like an entire, we're not going to, just lighten the situation to make it sound like a vacation, but say you've got a huge family sort of like retreat or obligation one weekend and nothing has come in for about a month or a few weeks or whatever. And all of a sudden at midnight on the Friday night before you're supposed to leave, when you and your family have already set and packed to go, they could send you 9 pages to get in by the next day or by 8 a.m. Monday morning. So we're fighting for actor protections that say it's not fair to be able to send actors things that are last minute and have last minute calls. We're fighting for AI if I didn't already say, we're fighting for AI protections too. And there's just a health right protections and many different things. So what's been going on over these last few weeks is that in a few months is that all of LA, which is a union city, and New York City as well, and Chicago, Miami, the other cities around the country, and then also all SAG and WGA members outside of the country. This includes Wicked Production, things like that. We've been asked to stop producing, stop moving, to be silent, to withhold our talent, our craft, our passions, the things that we're creating our livelihoods off of, and band together and say we won't take the abuse from the studio heads anymore, and we will come together as actors, creators, and move. We will move together and try to create something that they can't take away from us anymore. There was a contract that's been in on the books for years now called the New Media Contract, which I saw as a Band-Aid to the larger issue, which was the streaming thing. Streaming came out and there was no way of sort of like saying every time somebody plays something, this is why I'm about to break this down like Lisa Left Eye Lopez broke down how the #1 girl group can be bankrupt. The reason why is because, we've been going through this for years. The New Media Contract band-aided streaming services and said that we don't have a solution to the problem yet. We can't pay you for every time somebody goes and plays this commercial, plays this video, plays this TV show, but we can give you a truncated amount. And now, since that contract was put into place, even I get sometimes checks that are $0.00. It's more money to cut the check than it is to even send anything out. So now in that truncated time, that bandage has said, well, we're going to create some of the largest shows in the history of man. There's going to be a world pandemic where everybody's just going to sit home and watch these shows on repeat. And the people that make them are going to get 15 cents to $1. The lead actors, lead actresses, the writers, the creators, you won't make anything on it, but these streaming networks, they'll make millions. Yeah. And what's happened is that, the studio heads say, well, it's fair to you to make exactly what you're compensated for. That was your contract. That's what you're signed on to. And now what's happened this year is those contracts are up for renegotiation, which is why we find ourselves in the strike, because we're saying that we won't continue to sign another contract that puts that sort of like stress and damper that bandages the problem, but doesn't find an issue or a solution. We're saying we won't continue to sign another contract and be in a loophole that takes us out before we can even get a fair chance. So that's where we are. That's a very long way of explaining it, but that's where.
But it's necessary. And I wanted to add on to that. Speaking of just the fact that producers and a lot of shows are now not in production, it affects non-actors. If you're a consumer of TV, your next season of your favorite TV show is probably not happening right now, or B, got canceled, or C, is going to happen just at a way later time because of. And
it's, there are 2 projects that I even had in the can and finished up before the strike even happened. Everything's being held off, so new shows, new movies, new everything. Sometimes when it comes down to like movie releases over the weekends, those are still coming out. But when it comes down to new shows, a lot of new shows, because they like actors were being silenced. We can't talk about our work unless it's outside of like the top three things that you can still do in the industry, which are soap operas, commercials, and music videos. So unless it's one of those three, like actors are being silenced, we can't talk about, promote, or like push any work that we have. Yeah, it's a tight time.
I believe they said the 60s, since like the writers and actors were on strike together.
Yeah, both unions were on strike. Yeah,
like you said, like the writers been on strike since like May, April. Yeah, but the actors started to kind of like stand alongside them, I would say around like during the summertime. I saw Monique actually write about it, and that was my first time actually hearing about the strike. Monique, the comedian, actress, and just mogul, everything. Right. I love her so much. She's like, even though I do not know her at all. Can you hear the car in the background?
No, I can't at all.
Okay, thank God. Okay, the Zoom is working. Okay, great. She's really one of those, I would say, top people that really has been fighting for actors' rights. You know, especially due to her own experiences. She's definitely been like hands-on when it came to just like the dirty stuff that goes down in this industry. And I would say that she was one of the first people to really speak about situations related to this strike and stuff like that. So I really did want to kind of like shout her out and give her her specific flowers, because she has been speaking about this forever. And just like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we just shout out Monique, shout out Auntie Monique. It's really pissed me off only because as I am an actor, I'm also a consumer. I love Law and Order SVU, and that show got paused due to the
new episodes. Yeah.
So I literally was making a joke with my friends. I was like, okay, yeah, it's time to go to Hollywood and like riot, because there's no way.
We've been out here, well, not rioting, but we've been out here striking very heavily. And, you know, it's been beautiful to see. I think both unions band together like this, you know, and especially in a union city, there's so many people that you see, you don't know who's in SAG, you don't know who's doing what, you don't know, but you know that this is a city that's buzzing where everybody's doing something. What's been beautiful to see is everyone out on those front lines together, and not just the union members, but it's also people who have band together to support us too. You know, it's our allies. It's the people who aren't in the unions or are in other sister unions. It's the dancers. It's the hair makeup artists. You know, it's the MUAs. See, what you touched on and what you said, it was very important. It's not just consumers who are going to feel it. Everyone's going to feel this. And it's been interesting, you know, dancers feel it, musicians feel it, you know, voiceover artists feel it, you know, makeup artists, hairstylists, wardrobe departments. There are whole wardrobe houses out here who are saying, no, we have to close our doors until after the strike is over. We don't have enough money to even keep our doors open. So costume houses, everything is like sort of shutting down out here on this side. And the most beautiful thing though is to see if we're not able to make the art that we've fallen in love with making, it's beautiful to see that everybody's literally come together to support each other and hopefully find a solution to this sooner than later, even though it's already later.
First of all, and that's another thing, special shout out to just all of the set designers, makeup artists, camera crew, you name it, because these are the people, aside from the actual actors, these are the people that's actually putting the shows together, creating the sets, creating the spaces, creating the environments for us. And for them to not even be able to work, I could only imagine how difficult of a time it is for them. Like, we do, to me, like the cherry on top compared to the whole system, the whole cake full of just, you know what I mean? Where I get conflicted in, and I did want to know just briefly, obviously, how you feel. And I also think that it was kind of implied just in you explaining the whole thing. But I first wanted to talk to you just about the whole self-tape aspect of it. For those who do not know what self-tapes are, starting quarantine, this was happening a little bit before the quarantine though, but starting the quarantine, the industry just as a whole, the business has gotten accustomed to having actors and just people who want to audition for projects do the audition from home. And like, depending on the project itself, the callback would usually be like in person or something like that. But mainly when you first get an audition, you would get instructions on how to do it from home. And your background has to be clear. Like I said, there's multiple things that kind of go into it. And there's pros and cons to doing a self-tape. I would say a biggest con is background noise. I live in the projects and I live in New York City. So my neighborhood is always noisy. You're always going to hear a cop car. You're always going to hear a siren. You're going to hear something. And it really pisses me off when I'm doing a tape, especially where I would have to like scream or like really perform. And like the tape is great, but it gets damaged because you hear this huge police car or like this huge siren in the background. Kind of like now with this podcast, thank God my Zoom is fading my background out. Specifically for my specific case, I have a brother with cerebral palsy who makes noise all the time. And usually when I tell him to, just like keep it down, and he does for me, being that he has cerebral palsy, he's going to forget, in a couple of minutes, he's going to go back to making his noise. And it makes just doing my YouTube videos really, really hard. So imagine having to do something for a movie or, something big, and specifically for me in my home, now I do have a space to actually act against a plain wall, but I never had a plain wall space in my house to just act and put on a self-tape. And I also feel like that kind of hindered me a lot, especially when auditioning because there was so much movies and stuff that I auditioned for this year alone where I was kind of like, oh my God, I would really body this role if I was to get it. But I do feel like one of the factors that led into me not getting the roles was just the fact that my background, you will literally see my closet doors. And like now I have posters all over my room. So I really had to make sure that there was like one specific space where like you didn't see anything. A lot of times I used to do it in front of my door, which was even thinking back to it is making me cringe because it's just like I cannot believe that I only had those spaces. And I was hoping that, and I feel like a lot of actors also spoke out about it, just like, probably we would be able to get the job, we could afford or find a way to get that space that you guys need, and I do wish that in self-tapes like this, that a lot of businesses, a lot of casting directors are a little bit more considerate of the background, for people like me, like I said, I live in, low income housing, you know what I mean? So it's hard to put together something so, that has to be so set, so strict, so perfect. And especially in the conditions that you live in, it's difficult. And I think that's a lot of reasons why like a lot of actors were just calling to move a lot of auditions back in person. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm 50-50 on it. I know I'm like going on a tangent, but I'm 50-50 on it just because there is a part of me that did find kind of comfort in not having to actually get dressed and travel, like that feeling of just being able to pick up my phone and do it from home. To me, it's less time consuming and it's more easy to kind of get the audition there. But then it's kind of like if they're paying attention to factors like my background and my noise and stuff like that, it's kind of like, and it's not like they can't not pay attention to noise. Like I do feel like it's important to at least have your background as quiet as possible because the noise could interrupt it a lot. But at the same time, it's like, you get what I mean? Like there's a balance. It's like there's a pro and con to it. And I'm unsure if I personally, as an actor, want them to stop completely or if I just want them to be done with more consideration. But I wanted to kind of get your overall opinion on it. I mean, because you're literally in California. So like,
I have I think I'm 50-50 with it as well. Like you were saying, it's definitely been something that's been going on for a few years and it was already going on pre-pandemic. There'd been so many things that I sort of auditioned for just through self-tapes. But some of, especially in like the past few years, some of the largest roles that I've sort of booked were through self-tape submissions. And then even before that too, there have been certain things that I've gone in for and I felt like, gosh, if I didn't feel the pressure of this, if I could have just taken off all the weight of the room, sometimes the waiting room used to throw me, sometimes just being in the space. I had a really weird thing about going up to the Nickelodeon auditions over at 1515 Broadway. And there was this one room before they redesigned their floor plan. This one room used to trip me up every time. And I was like, we got to go up to Nickelodeon. If they put me in this room, I'm not getting this job. So, I mean, yeah, of course, I'm already putting that in the atmosphere. You're not getting this job before I get it. Yeah, that's already one thing. But I already knew just that the room just felt like my energy in the room, it just felt off. So there's been times where I was like, if I could just get out of this space, if I could just be home, I'll feel more grounded and able to work better. And then there's been other ones where I'm like, oh gosh, if they would have just seen me do this in person, if I would have just been able to know or have the security of knowing that casting got this tape, there's been times where I've auditioned for things and there's already been offers out after I submitted a self-tape. But that doesn't happen when you're going in person, and if it is happening when you're going in person, there's already an offer out. It's because they're specifically looking to see if there's anybody else who can fit into that role before the offer is confirmed. So I'm 50-50 with it. Like, I auditioned for The Boys over self-tape. I booked The Equalizer on self-tape. I booked I was about to say a couple things that I can't even say. So there's a couple projects that I have coming out that I booked on self-tape. And yeah, it's, I'm 50-50 when it comes to it. I love it. I love being able to have that energy, being able to see the room, being able to see the waiting room and actors that I haven't seen in a long time. But then sometimes that's a little distracting because actors don't know how to sotto voce. Sometimes when we get into the room, actors don't shut up, and you get the actors who are the chatty Cathy, and they want to talk to you about everybody because they haven't seen you in like the last 3 months. So sometimes that ends up being the dangerous thing for me because they don't, I look at the waiting room as a very sacred place because that's the last moment before you get to like let it all out. And sometimes I just want to be like left alone, especially when I'm very nervous. A lot of times I'm introverted, I'm humble, and I'm like very nervous half the time, so to get into the room and then to have to be extroverted and put on the show and then get to the audition too, I'm just like, I need this time for myself. So those are the moments where I'm like, I like being able to self-tape at home, but then I miss the moments of seeing my friends sometimes and seeing casting directors who have even become friends and things like that. So it's such an interesting balance, but specific to me for things that I want to be able to, stay in the room for. I want to be like, okay, I'll go into the room for this one, and things that I want to self-tape at home, I want to be like, all right, now I'm taping this one at home. Let's wait for casting to get the tape. But I definitely understand both sides of it. And I think after the pandemic, I don't know that there'll be less self-taping, only because we now as an industry see how we can do with it. I think at the end of the day, everybody wants to tighten up on the budget and cheapen the tighten up on their pockets and get the work done in the cheapest way possible. We all want to do it just as people. That's human behavior. So I think when it comes down to it, if I were a casting director, I would say I've been able to work remotely and have people send in tapes, and we've cast some of our biggest shows in these last 4 years just off tape. Why am I going to go and rent out an office again? And then, when we were able to do the same job from sitting at home, you do miss that interaction, that human interaction. And maybe some one day, like certain offices they'll do specific days, but I think once you see that you can still make this industry run on a sometimes more efficient conveyor belt, then you realize how to cut the corners where you can and like still really have them full out. But that's why I think, figuring out your self-tape setup and figuring out all of that is very important, and figuring out what works for your space and environment is very important too, because I didn't have a lot and I found myself auditioning. My tape for The Boys was while I was in London. My tape for the show that I'm doing that's going to come out soon was while I was here. My tape for The Equalizer was when I was in a hotel room in New Orleans shooting NCIS, so I think, and what's interesting is that once we take away all those things of, oh, I don't have the right setup, I don't have all of these things, and we can just get back to the acting, that's the thing that they're watching for mostly at the end of the day. That's what needs to just be at 100%. Jennifer Garner, no, I'm sorry. It was $1 Million Listing, and she recently showed just her audition tape. It was Hilary Swank, not $1 Million Listing. That's a show on Bravo where they sell real estate. It was $1 Million Baby, right? But she just showed
$1 Million Baby.
Yes, she showed her audition tape, and her audition tape was literally her sitting on the arm of her couch in front of her door with one of her friends, the whole script balled up in her hand, and her just sitting there and having the conversation about what, I can't remember which scene it was, but just them having a real raw conversation. After a while, as long as you can be connected to the text and to what the story is, then you start to blur out everything else in the background, or the background becomes a part of the environment that the character is set in. So if you know, I'm 50-50 because if I can release all of those other sort of like inhibitions and things that are weighing me down and just get back to the acting, then that's the most important thing at the end of the day anyway.
I agree with everything that you're saying, because there was also times when I've auditioned for things and I was kind of just like, well, like probably if I would have did it from the comfort of my home, I would have been fine. But then there were also, I'm a big perfectionist. So like I will do 50 before sending anything. And it's like, it's harder because like there were roles where I had to play a person with mental issues and I had to scream. And then like I would be screaming for like 2 hours.
Right, yeah.
Probably it would be better if I just had that one shot to just impress the casting director. But then
people who are perfectionists, self-tapes are the devil, because you will sit there and break down every little moment and probably scare yourself into not even
sending it.
There have been so many things where I'm like, no, but even just the angle of my head in that moment, if I had just, you know, so even, you know, it's all about living though. And that's what I found out from casting and from people who have been watching too many self-tapes and more than they probably want to, but still love being able to do. But it's all about, you know, it's about the story and about telling the story and about being honest and, you know, grounded. That's what the room is wanting at the end of the day, and that's what the self-tape world is wanting too.
It all depends on the project. You know, so it's really hard to say, okay, just for these projects, do self-tape, because it really also just depends on the project. But I know that as an actor, it is more convenient for me to do self-tapes than to go in person. But if I had to go in person, obviously, when it's your career, you'll do anything. So there were times when I've been late, rushed, ran out the house, jumped, hopped, and skipped to auditions just to not even get them, but just because I care and it's your passion. You know, it's worth it, you know, regardless of how you have to do it. It is definitely worth it. We are unfortunately still sitting in the strike, and it's been, I think, over 60 days since the strike has been going down. As far as the actors have been a part of it, it's been 60 days, over 60 days. And, you know, I don't know when things are going to really come through. I feel like Hollywood Studios definitely has like a strategy involved into just like making us prolong the strike out. But I also feel like we have a lot of heavy hitting actors that's not willing to put down a fight. And I appreciate them. And, you know, obviously shout out to them. Because I've seen so much actors from shows I've watched. There's so much actors that you've seen on shows. It's really heartwarming to see, like you said, these people take their time out, because it affects them too. It affects them too. It's affecting their checks. Like, you should always be able to get residual checks, especially if your show is playing. Like when Fran Drescher was talking about it, I was like, okay, I literally was watching The Nanny all my life. Like, are you telling me her checks are being affected? That's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, that's a problem, because her show, they're always playing The Nanny somewhere. Like, this could affect somebody like her too. And she's been in this game for so long. Oh my God, that should not be happening. I think they said one of the creators from She-Hulk, you know, which is millions of dollars worth of a project, only made less than 300. Like, that should not be a thing. Orange is the New Black, the show that literally made Netflix popular. Like, the fact that they still had to work 9-to-5 jobs, still had to find a way to pay just to get to set. That's insane to me. Like, there's no words. Everybody has to eat, but I think that's the point. There needs to be an even distribution and a fair wage placed upon everybody that's actually working.
I in no way make light of the situation at all, but only because I've seen what we do and the therapeutic relief and the physical and health relief it can have. You know, they always say we're not curing cancer. No, we're not curing cancer, but we're helping you forget that you've even gotten it. We're helping you get through the moment. We're helping you laugh and cry. We're taking you out of the pain. I lost my grandmother to like lung cancer. I saw the moments where she still laughed, where she didn't even realize that she was sick. You know, I've seen moments, I've seen my dad go through, I saw him go through ups and downs where he was able to look back at a show or able to look back at something that he loved, a film or something, and forgot that he was even going through it. We're not curing the disease, but we're making you forget that you've even gotten it. And yeah, that might be distracting this and a third, but we're giving you a moment to feel relief again, to feel nostalgia, to feel like you can breathe, to feel like I'm not consumed by the world. I can just forget about, what I'm going through. We're not curing the issue, but we're helping people. We're helping the people with survive the moment. We're helping the people get through whatever it is, through the hardships, through the storm. We're helping people get through the most difficult part of their lives while still figuring out how to get through the most difficult part of our own. As artists, we're the butt of the joke. Yeah, we are the joke. We're the crime, we're the laughter, we're the pain, we're the tears. We're literally saying, give me your burdens, give them to me, put them on my back. Let me help you through this. Let me lift you up. Let me inspire and encourage you. Let me aspire. Let me help you aspire to be something bigger than you are, and then to not be seen as being those people who are helping in that way.
Mom's health was declining. All I had was TV. All I had was shows. And something to take my mind out of it. Obviously, YouTube. I was really big on YouTube. My love for YouTube grew. But I feel like growing up in 2010s, I was already bound to be a YouTube kid.
Right.
I found solace in TV a lot. Like I just said, SVU, like you saw my reaction even when I found out that show had to be prolonged. SVU is not just one of my favorite TV shows of all time, but it's also a comfort show. Like I will go back and watch every single episode. I've seen the whole entire series, even though it's 24 seasons. Almost a million times. There's some shows that are out right now that are probably people's comfort show, helping them with their depression, mental health, overcome a time that they're going through in their life, and it's being stopped. And then I also feel like it could have such a circular effect, because then you have people that will not watch these subscriptions and then, leave. And then that's also cutting into money. So we don't need answers. We need solutions. We need effects. We need stuff to happen for our benefit, because I feel like this is a tough time, but it's also revolutionary. It'll be years from now. It'll be in the textbooks. It'll be something that you could research, and we're living in it. And that's what I also kind of find a little cool, the fact that we are banding together to be like, hey, we did this just so this could be the way it is today.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of the most beautiful thing about it. But it definitely is. It's tough times that we're living in now. And I wanted to make sure that it's so weird. I decided to bring my podcast back around this month, and this is still happening. It's crazy. And I just, I wanted to give some spotlight on the situation. You broke it down beautifully, by the way. All your responses, your overall presence, you've been.
I'm just grateful.
My God.
Happy you wanted to have me on. So yeah.
Of course. Everything that we spoke about, what are your, I would say, last and final sentences?
Yeah, we'll get through this. And there'll be a brighter tomorrow, and we'll be able to have exactly what we're meant and worth having. We are enough. We are the voice. We're stronger together. And we know, we know what each other's going through more than we realize. We as people tend to go, I'm going through this. There's nobody else who understands me. But I guarantee, call on your fellow artists right now, call on your fellow actors, performers, thespians, musicians, dancers, call on your fellow artists. We are people who, just like Erykah Badu said, are sensitive about our ish. We're sensitive about our art, about the things we do. So our heart's invested in that. Call on the people who are your closest artistic friends, because their hearts are invested, and it's a time that we're all sort of facing and going through. But I guarantee it's the support of each other that'll get us through this time.
I do feel like streaming as a whole has really taken over the business. A lot of people aren't watching TV no more. It's a whole instant gratification thing. That's great and all, but when these people are consuming our work, how do we get the benefits of that to not just do better for ourselves, but live? We're human beings too. We have to eat. We need healthcare. There's just things that we also need to do as actors, whether you're famous or, you know, not yet. You know, it's necessary. We're human beings that are fighting for necessities. Thank you so much for just being a part of this episode. Because I know you said something about like not being like up there yet. If you ask me, you're pretty up there. I consider you my first celebrity guest. Just because you're so like, first of all, as an actor, you're just so much more not only experienced than me, but like, and I mean this in a beautiful, great way. It's just like you've done so much more, you've seen so much more, and like to me that whatever prime or, you know, whatever you want to call it, if you're not, first of all, you're there already, but I feel like I said, you're my first celebrity guest, and I'm always going to jack that. Like that's
I'm not, but thank you. I'll take love. I've been told that I don't accept compliments well. I'm a modest guy. I'm humble.
Yeah, I know. First of all, neither do I. Neither do I.
It's what I love at the end of the day, and having a great time doing it. And I'm happy that I've been happy and grateful that I've been able to do any of it.
You're authentic about it, and that's what's going to take you far. So I just wanted to say you're such an awesome person. I do hope we get to do this again, but like, and hopefully once the strike ends, hopefully you will be able to stay as booked and busy as you need to and continue to do what you love. And, you know, for me as well.
Same as you, sir. Same as you.
This is definitely not the last you're going to see of me, and definitely not Justin. You have seen him already, so continue to see him on, hopefully if the strike ends, a lot more movies, a lot more shows. And yeah, I guess this is me signing out, and I'll definitely see you guys later. Justin, thank you so much.
Thank you, and stay encouraged, guys.
That's it.
Word. Thank y'all.
There's a difference between hearing and listening. You get it. Our passion, our spirit, our devotion. We're making magic. Come on and talk when you got the time. Freedom, once you on the line, we wanna hear from you. You got it going. Let your voice shine. Platform yours is not just mine. We wanna hear from you.